High Plains Technology Center, turning education and training into workplace success.
Oh, back to school, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
High Plains Technology Center, education at the speed of business. School is now in session.
Here we are Wednesday morning, Taylor Burnett sitting in for you. So very cold. I'm tired of this cold, but good news is guess what? It'll be warm later on, and it'll be more my weather when I'm gone because I'm going to sit out 2 weeks. Katie's going to fill in for me because I've got obligations the next 2 Wednesdays. But I'm going to end it on a bang, I thought. I'm going to bring in the one, the only, the redheaded one. I'll let him introduce himself. Introduce yourself and say what you do.
All right, well, good morning. What do I do, Taylor? I
don't know.
Pake Carlson. I teach construction trades out at High Plains.
Pake has had a very busy time. I thought this would be a great time to have him on. Last week we had Dana and Sheldon on, and they talked a little bit about what's going on, the District Livestock Show. Pake, well, I want to talk to you first before we get into that, a little bit about the cabinet making contest. And you just held that last week, correct?
Yep, Friday.
Okay, Friday. And how many schools come to Woodward to compete in that?
So there would be 3 typically. One didn't make it this year, so there was just 2 other schools, Francis Tuttle and Canadian Valley.
So Francis Tuttle is still in. I thought they got out. Barkley and I had that conversation. So
no, they've been in it. They're good.
I know, but I mean, it makes so much sense to have Oklahoma City School with Woodward.
We're out here in the middle of nowhere, so usually they host and I go there. So
okay,
you know what I mean?
Right.
We had to go somewhere. I had to be in some district.
I know, but it's just funny how that works because I thought they would align that a little bit better because there are some schools that are really a lot closer in proximity to us than that.
I think it's like I-35 and I-40 basically is like the defining of our district. I think.
Okay,
does that make sense?
Does Northwest Tech not have that?
They don't have construction.
Okay, no. All right, there we go.
But there is an odd thing in there too. So Autry Tech over in Enid,
yes,
they compete in our region for carpentry, but not cabinet making. So there's things I don't even understand yet. It's crazy.
A convoluted mess, just like OSSAA, with things. So okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
I mean, someone that don't you? I love it. So later on, everybody goes, so wait a second, let's divide this out. And then you have people like us that are fairly new going, well, why is that? Yeah. And no one can really answer that now because the people that set those district lines are gone.
I just don't ask questions. Tell me where to be and what you want me to do.
Because you're in the hierarchy of your division, aren't you?
Yeah, a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, you're kind of,
I'm getting to be one of the gray heads, in the construction
Jenny will be
world.
so mad if you're going to consider to be yourself a gray head. So you'll go gray like me, and then you'll eventually turn white. So,
okay, right.
So we'll talk about Francis Tuttle and Canadian Valley came to Woodward, Oklahoma to compete in this. So when we talk about the cabinetry division and the contest, what exactly does that entail?
Well, I mean, as far as the contest goes.
Yeah, the contest.
Yep. Okay, so, I mean, obviously we're building a cabinet. It's cabinet making is the contest. But it usually consists of just a small project, whether that's a small lower cabinet, could be maybe sort of like an end table, or some upper cabinet like what we call a head knocker or a John box, which usually hangs above your toilets in your house, just a small, simple cabinet.
Is that the head knocker?
That's
I like
a head
that.
knocker.
That makes so much sense.
That's technical term right there.
I've learned my thing for the morning. I'm done.
Yep.
I'm finished for the day. Okay.
So that's what we did this year, so that's why I brought that up. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
And how much time do they have?
So it ranges, but usually around 4 hours is pretty typical. Maybe up to 5, depending on the project.
And they don't know what they're going to be making when they come into this contest, correct?
Not until they set down the day of contest and we hand them the prints. They don't know.
So who comes up with the plans and the prints that they...
So the State Department basically is in charge of that.
Okay.
They figure out what we're going to compete on, and then if you are a host, you get a little bit of privy, I guess, like a couple days before usually they send it to you.
It's kind of a good deal to kind of know, hey, you're going to be making
We got to kind of set up the shop,
Yes.
what tools we need and stuff like that. But of course, I trust all the people in the district and vice versa. That, we're not going to share with anybody until the day of. But.
That's cool. So they have about 4 hours to complete this. How many people from Woodward competed?
So we had 4 from around surrounding area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, our district,
school, yes.
our school district. So we had 4 that competed. So how did the outcome come?
So we did pretty good. We had, you can make me recall things. Let's see, tell you this real quick.
Yeah.
So there's 2 divisions.
Okay, that's
There's
what I
high
thought.
school
I was going to ask
and
that.
there's post-secondary, which is essentially adult.
Okay.
Right? So it's the same contest, same time, everything's the same, except they just don't compete against each other. They're their own divisions.
Which it should be.
Okay. So I had 2 adults and 2 high school this time. And for us, we had on the high school side, Carson Miller got first, so he gets to move on to state. And then I can't remember which, Francis Tuttle or Canadian Valley, they got the other 2 spots
Okay.
of the top 3
Okay.
that move on to state. And then on the high school side, Lucas Hesser got second place from Woodward here. And so he'll be going to state because adult side only top 2 go.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't remember exactly
That's fine.
who got the first place. And then Dylan, he got third in the adult.
Just missed it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I'm pretty sure on the high school side, I didn't say John Keepers. He was, I want to say 5th or 6th place.
Okay.
Okay,
Which
so-
is great.
Oh, he did great. I mean, he did good. It's a stiff competition.
Yeah.
There's some good talent out there.
Well, and especially, I mean, when you're competing against some bigger schools
Yes.
that have a little bit bigger shops.
Yep.
And a little bit bigger, more opportunities at times.
Yep.
I know you run a great shop. I know, but I mean, Francis Tuttle, it's a little bit different ball game. It's like, Jinx versus
Sure.
Moreland.
Sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
when it comes to their facilities.
Yeah.
So when we talk about those things, we talked about it a little bit last week. These kids are probably using math, geometry without knowing it, correct?
Yep.
So what is the hardest thing thing that they have to learn? Because, of course, it's all measurements, but what's the hardest thing that when it comes down to that, knowing that?
It can kind of depend on obviously what they're doing. You say it's really not that difficult to math. It's pretty basic. Addition, subtraction, division, fractions.
Well, if it's metric system, it'd be way easy. Let me
it
just
would
say
be.
that.
And we do some metric stuff, but they keep telling us that we're all going to be there one of these days, but it never happens.
I wish we would.
But I think that's the hardest part, really, is the fractions. Most people have some trouble, adding, subtracting, dividing fractions. We deal with those a lot, obviously,
Yep.
because when you're reading a tape measure, it's in fractions, 16ths, 8ths, quarters, so on.
And it matters.
It's very important. Absolutely. Right. So that's probably honestly the hardest thing. I mean, that sounds surprising maybe, but
And what about
It is.
the angles a little bit matter as well with
sure.
things?
But, I mean,
that's
90s and 45s, like
I
I
know.
say, we're pretty simple.
and that is a lot of it. Really, it is.
Yeah.
They're not going too obscure into
No.
that deal.
No,
So
we don't need no
yeah.
obtuse or,
Oh,
all
come
that
on.
stuff.
No.
I mean, necessarily.
Boy, you really reached deep for that one, didn't you?
I think the hardest thing we do math-wise, but once again, us carpenters learn how to cheat on everything. We have calculators that do all the hard thinking for us. But, when it comes to carpentry or framing, figuring out roof, like your rafter length,
Yeah.
it's essentially Pythagorean theorem.
Okay. Wow.
Exactly.
I am so proud of you.
Did I
Wow.
say it right?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I am so proud of you. That's so awesome.
But like I say, our calculators pretty much do it for us.
So when now they go on to state, so they'll be competing against everybody in the state.
Yeah.
So where is that contest going to be held?
In Tulsa.
In Tulsa.
It's
Okay.
always in Tulsa, yeah.
Always.
Yep.
It seems like everything is always usually when it comes
Yeah.
to state is in Tulsa.
It just
for some
takes a
reason.
big facility, a big convention center to hold it. So that's just for Oklahoma. That's
Well,
what we got.
now we go to Tulsa because, don't get me started on why everybody's going to Tulsa for conventions, but
Yeah.
there's a reason. I'll just say Oklahoma City priced themselves out of a lot
Yeah,
of
there's
some
a lot
things.
of reasons there. I know.
Hopefully it'll get better, but yeah. So when they compete at state, they're competing against everybody, and they'll have a high school and an adult division.
Yeah.
So some of these adults, even some of the high school students, what do some of them continue on after they graduate and continue to do things that they want to do this for a living?
Sure, there's a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not as many as you would think, but because a lot of my students, honestly, they go on to college or I have several that go to military. It seems like these
Which
days.
is great
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
awesome. But so yeah, I do have a handful, obviously, that pursue the career in construction throughout the years. But,
And follow in your footsteps.
yeah, well, I don't know if anyone wants to do that, but
So and when it comes to the construction side of things, is the roofing, the pitch and everything, is that the kind of one of the hardest things with the trusses and
I'd
stuff?
say that's the pinnacle. Roof framing is the most technical, especially with the math.
Okay.
I mean, I would say so.
Sheetrocking kind of, the
I mean,
easiest.
there's like say,
I'm not
most
making fun of
it
the
is
rockers
just-
out there, so
Most of it's just work.
Yes.
I mean, I love it. I
No,
love the
I
work,
agree.
but I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. you don't have to be a brainiac necessarily. I mean, obviously,
Look at this.
I did
it. Boy, you said it, not me.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was reading your mind over there.
and now here you are teaching it.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when you talk about some of this stuff, because you do, I want to give you a little bit of credit, because when you really embrace your students and everything, safety is pretty paramount with you.
Yeah.
So, what do you think one of the most dangerous aspects of, say, carpentry, building houses could be? Once again, the roof aspect.
Yeah, I mean, working at elevation.
Yeah.
The falls are what get majority of people in construction injured. So.
And the standards have changed dramatically with that.
Yeah,
I mean, for the better.
Yeah.
We're always reactive. We're not proactive with
we
things.
try to be. All my students will leave with an OSHA 10 certification, which
Cool.
is all about safety,
Yeah.
obviously. So that's a big
Because
thing.
you're really not diving into the electrical side of things as much, correct?
We do a little bit.
Yes,
yeah.
you touch
but by
on it.
no means are you going to leave my class being an electrician or anything
Yeah.
like that.
So we're going to pivot a little bit. Pivot, as Ross Geller would say. So we're going to go to the aspect of what you've done with the District Livestock Show.
Okay.
You did that this weekend, last
Yep.
weekend. So what did you really do for them? Because this is the coolest thing.
So it started, I want to say 8, maybe 10 years ago. Man, I lose
You were
track of things.
voluntold.
I was voluntold, right, to figure
I
out
remember this.
something. I won't say who voluntold me.
Well, yeah, the guy with not much hair.
But anyway, he said, hey, figure out something to go out to the District Livestock Show and, let people get hands-on and show them what we do. So I came up with this bench design. And when I say bench, like a sitting bench, So like I say, we've been doing that every year since. We go out there, we've pre-cut all the pieces. That's the majority of the work, really. Because hauling all the equipment out there to do it's not feasible.
Yes.
So anyway, we have the pieces pre-cut. We go out there, and we've pretty much always went on Sunday, which is the Barrow Show. That's usually you get the biggest crowd on the weekend, and that's one of the bigger shows. So we get out there, we set up, and then we allow the public. When I say public, usually all the youngsters, the kids that are around, they come over and get hands-on with us. My students, I take my officer team out there. This is one of those things if you're going to be an officer, you got to do
You
this
have
kind
to,
of thing.
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, they show up, and what we'll do is we'll sand all the pieces. We'll get them prepped for stain, and then we stain them there on site, and then we assemble the benches. So using impacts and drills and stuff. So the kids eat it up. I mean,
It's a recruiting tool for you.
it is a recruiting tool.
I
Of
think
course,
it's
the kids
awesome.
are pretty young, but
Yes.
hopefully they remember that.
Because I will tell you this, they do remember that. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the coolest things that you've thought.
And it's to me, it's not just about the recruiting, but I just want these kids to realize that there's so many cool skills, hands-on skills that they can go do. I mean, the parents out there, they love it too, because of course we're like a babysitter, but
yes, for sure.
while they're out there. But I mean, they come over there and see what the kids are doing. They're like, well, this is really cool.
At a
They're
livestock show,
learning
the
something.
kids usually just run rampant anyway.
Exactly.
So getting food and that's so
That's the one thing I always tell my kids, because of course we're using stain. I say, all right, your one goal is you cannot let them get covered in stain, because if mom comes over here and yells at me, you all are in trouble.
because that's not easy to get off. I don't know if
it's
anybody
called
realizes
stain
that.
for a
Yes,
reason.
I don't know if anybody realizes it's not easy to get off.
Yeah.
So, I think that is one of the coolest things. You come out there, you pull up the shop, and the coolest thing too is the winners. They get to the grand champion and reserve.
Yep.
Get to have these
grand overall, yeah. Each gets one. Yeah.
Grand overall. Sorry,
Yep.
get to have this. And that you talk about show off. It's
Yeah.
way cool. Whether they have it in their front porch still or not,
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah,
But-
it's become a deal. There's a
And they're
metal
not
plaque on
light.
there.
Yeah.
No, they will not blow away. Even in Oklahoma, they will not blow away.
We have tested these other than
Yeah.
the deer blind, right? In,
They are
in
used.
Beaver,
They're made
Oklahoma.
out of 2x6 pine, which I'll give a shout out to Tri-State Trusses.
Yes.
They always help me out throughout the year with many things, but in this case, they usually donate a lot of this material for us to do this. So
There you go.
it's made possible by some extent by Tri-State.
And once again, we can't get away from our partners, because our partners with Career Tech, and I know Tri-State is a big partner of yours, Pake, that
Yes.
wouldn't allow you to get through the school year without them. And I know you have plenty others. We don't want you to go through and list, but your partners, you really are great with that, and you do a steak dinner at the end and invite them all out there to say thank you, and this is our advisory committee, and I need you guys, right?
Yep.
Could you imagine doing business without businesses out there?
No. It
Yeah.
would be much more difficult for sure.
All right. Well, thanks for coming out. We'll get back out there and brave this cold. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Boomer Dance team. Competed at Nationals, did real well. proud of you girls. I know all the hard work you put in, but I will see you again in March, and hopefully it'll be shorts weather instead of my electric vest weather, and I will be ready for that. We'll see you in a couple weeks.